Good afternoon.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to say, Meltem, that I'm extremely happy that you're here. We've known each other for 3 years, and this is the first time that we see each other here in my country. I'm super proud of that. And everyone should be very happy that we can actually have Meltem here, because not only because she's a superstar in the world of the cryptocurrencies and in the ecosystem, but mainly because very few people, I would say, in the whole world have been so exposed to so many companies and so many cryptocurrency and blockchain initiatives as Meltem have been. So you all know Meltem was previously part of the founding team of DCG, a fund that has invested in over 100 blockchain and cryptocurrency companies around the world. One of them, Buddha.com, actually. Yeah. She used to work there, and today she teaches at Oxford University. She advises at MIT and the World Economic Forum in the subject of blockchain and cryptocurrencies. And she has recently started her own cryptocurrency-related company. So as you can see, she's a superstar. She's a superwoman. So please, let's start by giving her a big round of applause. It's an honor.
So I gave Guille a Bitcoin to say those nice things. I'm very excited to be here. This is actually my second time in Chile. Last time I was here, I was not able to see Guille, but I'm very excited to be here, and I'm very happy that there's a blockchain conference that's been organized. So thank you to Cristobal for all of his hard work in putting this together. This is amazing. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, it's amazing. And one of the things that impressed me the most 4 years ago when I started in this industry was the huge amount of super smart people that were working in the industry, are working in this industry. It's just mind-blowing. I mean, anyone you meet and you start talking with, you can realize the reason and the fundamentals that they have and the reasons why they got into the industry and why they fell in love with the technology. And the other thing that is super amazing is the very wide range of backgrounds where they come from. So I wanted to ask you 2 questions. I'll start by 2 questions. First of all, what did you do before getting into crypto world? And second, what happened? What did you see? What is it that you saw?
Sure, that's a great question. I think every time I go to a conference, this is the first question I ask people. I say it's like your birth, and then after your birth comes your Bitcoin origin story, or how you got to crypto. So my background, I studied math and economics in university, and then I worked for a long time in the oil and gas industry. I spent a lot of time focused on M&A, acquisitions, commodities trading, but also in corporate finance, really making long-term capital planning decisions. And after some time in oil and gas, I said, you know what, this is interesting, but not aligned with my values. And so I went to graduate school at MIT. And at that time, in 2013, I'd already heard about Bitcoin. I'd bought some Bitcoin, and I used it on the internet. And so I was excited about Bitcoin, but I thought it was weird. It was very edge, kind of fringe. There were a lot of crypto anarchists. I would go to meetups, and the people who were there were not necessarily people I identified with, but it was interesting. And then when I got to MIT in Boston, there were so many students who were working on Bitcoin projects. There were students mining Bitcoin in their dorm rooms. People were mining Bitcoin on their computers, because you could still do that. People were setting up Bitcoin faucets that would use so you would go to this website, and the website would actually use the capacity on your own processor to mine for Bitcoin and then give you some Bitcoin. So that was the way I got some Bitcoin, which was great. And what was really cool about that time from 2013 to 2015 is when I first started, no one really talked about the price of Bitcoin. Everyone talked about the ultimate goal of why Bitcoin was important, which to me is still about financial freedom, self-sovereignty. So how do I, as an individual, go around the world without being the actor of a state or a country or now a corporation? How do I achieve more freedom in how I move and how I act and how I express myself? And then I think the biggest thing was, can we give people choice? And so that's still the motivation. As I was leaving grad school, I started 2 companies, both in the financial technology space, focused more on hedge funds. And I focused a lot on quantitative finance, so using math to try to figure out how to make money, which is what cryptocurrency sometimes feels like today. And then I met Barry Silbert, who was putting together Digital Currency Group, and he said, hey, I've invested in 20 companies. I don't really know what to do with them. We're trying to raise money. We're trying to create really a platform to build the Bitcoin industry. Didn't really know what the role would be. And I said, you know what? What else would I do with my time? Why not jump in? And since then, it's been 4 years almost. It's been weird. It's been wonderful. I've learned a lot, and the world has changed a lot.
Awesome, awesome. Very, very interesting. You have this profile where you've been in all these dimensions of finance, from the very traditional industry to cryptocurrencies, which is amazing. And that brings me to the next question, which is, you worked for like almost 3 years at DCG, and you invested in what, over 100 companies?
120.
120.
120.
So that's amazing. And you invested in 120, but out of thousands. So one of the things that it's very hard, very complicated in this industry is that everyone that is here, we all know that this is the future, but we're not certain how the future is gonna happen or what's gonna happen. And there's so many people that think different stuff, and so many startups that have a slightly different view of the future. So how could you actually, or what were the fundamentals or the main filters for you to choose one company, one alternative, one point of view over the others?
I always look at one thing, and one thing really is the motivating factor. It's the team, the people, and why. So I always ask people, when I invest in companies, I don't ever really talk about the company, which is interesting. I always ask people, why? Why are you here? What are you spending your time on? And why does it matter for you? And I want to invest in people who aren't focused on, oh, I want to make money by doing an ICO, or oh, I want to solve, the problem of supply chains for everyone in the world. That's unrealistic. But I want people who have this burning desire to solve a problem, that will do anything to solve this problem. Because being an entrepreneur, having been an entrepreneur, I know how difficult it is. People will say no 1,000 times. You will fail you know this. You're an entrepreneur, you know this. And how hard it was. I mean, Guy and I have known each other for 3 years. We've had phone calls where we weren't sure if they were gonna make it.
Yeah, it's true.
And you're still alive.
Sadly.
But the ultimate factor, I think, that determines a successful company from an unsuccessful company is people who will get up and fight every single day. And so for me, it always starts with the team. And if the why isn't there, then there's no point in having a conversation. Now, once the why is there and you have someone who's very motivated and who really passionately cares, then I think there are other important fundamentals, like what market are they going after? Are there regulatory barriers that make it very difficult to address this market? In some cases, if we're relying on laws to change, that's something outside of the control of a company or any one sort of industry, and so that to me is a little bit more difficult. And then I think whenever I look at investing, it's about creating a portfolio. So it's diversifying across different themes. But I think every portfolio needs a few crazy ideas, or what we call the moonshots, going for the moon, really big, crazy ideas. And to me as an investor, that's what really motivates me, is there are businesses that are good and they'll make money and they're run by competent people, but I want the crazy people, because I think 1 out of 10 may make it work.
Awesome. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And actually, that brings me very naturally to ICOs, which is a super, super hot subject here. I think everyone that is in the room might know it. In case you don't, ICOs are these tokens or representation of a company that are based on a token that you can trade, based on the Bitcoin protocol, on the blockchain protocol, so you can trade between P2P, and prices are super crazy. Companies that don't have even a month, that don't have even a white paper, are rising $100 million. So what you were saying, it's very important, and it's actually very inspiring, because there are a lot of scams in the ecosystem. There are a lot of scams. Please be careful with where you're putting your money, who you're giving your money to. And many times, it's greed that pushes people to put money on a company that is just famous, that is just investing a lot of money in marketing. And nobody's actually reading nor trying to understand what the founders are actually saying. So you have a lot of experience with ICOs, you have a lot of experience with tokens, you have a very, very clear opinion about a lot of stuff. So please.
Yes. ICOs, tokens, is such an interesting subject. So I am excited about tokens in general. The idea of being able to create different types of financial assets to make them liquid and tradable through the use of a medium like a underlying ledger or blockchain is very interesting. The way that people are going about conducting ICOs, to me, people are trying to print money. Right? And so what happens, I don't want to say scams necessarily. I think some people maybe have good intentions, but they have no idea how to execute. And what I find so funny is when I talk to teams, they say to me, okay, here's our plan, right? And they put down a business plan. And every single ICO business plan stops once they sell the tokens. Now, creating a token and selling a token is easy. The hard part is what you do with it once it's live. You have to build a network. That's the fundamental premise of what makes these things valuable. The idea is that by owning the token, you own a stake in the growth of the network and the economic value created on top of that network. The problem is not many people really think about the next 3 years, the next 5, 10, 20 years. And to me, that's the most important part of the life cycle of a token or a crypto asset, is what happens after it's issued and trading. How do people actually use it? So I spend a lot of time writing about, speaking about this idea, very basic economic concept of supply and demand. Creating a token is creating supply. Now, you can play all sorts of games with controlling supply by selling only certain percent, by artificially constraining the supply. You can do all sorts of interesting things to try to manipulate the price using supply. But without any demand, so without any use for the token, either as a utility, as fuel, people who want to use the network, you have zero value. And the problem with so many of these tokens is that there will never be any demand for the networks they're trying to create. And so in my opinion, what you're going to see with many of these ICOs who raised hundreds of millions, tens of millions of dollars, is actually all of those projects are better off never actually launching the network. So you look at the token. So let's use Augur as an example. This is my favorite example. Augur did an ICO in 2015. I invested in it with Ether from the Ether crowd sale, because the Ethereum crowd sale happened, and then Augur happened right after, kind of using the same model. The idea was simple. We're going to create a marketplace for people to make predictions and then bet on the outcome. So it was a decentralized prediction marketplace. This is the idea. So Augur did this ICO. I think they raised about $12 million, and the price of Augur went from 10 cents then $1 to $15. Last fall, it was trading at $120. Now this May, it's almost going to be the 3-year anniversary of the crowd sale of Augur. Both of the co-founders have left the project. They no longer work on the project. They have one person working full-time on the project. They have not launched even a functioning prototype of the prediction market. And yet this token has a market cap of $250 million. To me, this is a clear example of a place where if they ever launch prediction marketplace, it would be a disaster because there's no way at this point that they can live up to the expectation of creating hundreds of millions of dollars of value. And so to me, this is the fundamental problem, is all of these ideas are interesting, but how will you actually create demand? This is the fundamental problem, and this is what I'm working on now, is how do we resolve this problem in the market? Because all of the people that are going to get hurt, it's not me, it's not you, it's not VCs, it's probably not even the people at this conference, it's the people who are sitting at home. They don't know good from bad. They have no idea what they're buying. Maybe their friend tells them, buy this, you're going to make lots of money. And they're the people who are going to lose their money. And to me, there is a fundamental problem with that. I don't want to get rich by forcing 100 or 1,000 other people to lose their money. And so that's a big problem that needs to be solved.
It's a huge problem. There's a lot of work that has to be done every time we invest in something. I mean, this is not magic. I mean, if you don't spend hours or days studying what you're going to invest in, and you make money, you are lucky. And if you don't, you deserve it.
Or you're stupid. I don't know which one. You're rich and stupid.
Stupid is right in between the spectrum. But yeah, and the chances are, I mean, there's so many coming up. There's so many tokens. There are so many ICOs coming up every single day.
I'm drowning in tokens. Drowning. Just too many.
It's true. It's crazy. That chances are that if you don't do, I mean, if you don't work for your investment, if you don't actually study a lot, chances are you're going to lose your money, because 1% or maybe 5% are going to be successful.
But wait, hold on. I don't think that's fair. So I do think one of the important things to think about is timescale, right? So where Bitcoin is 9 years old, and Bitcoin has created a lot of value, right? So Buddha, people buy Bitcoin, but I've also invested in companies that enable people to use Bitcoin to send money from one country in Africa to another, to pay their employees, to send money to their families. So I think it took 9 years to make Bitcoin useful. Ethereum's been running, the network has been running for 2 years, and Ethereum's creating some value. Arguably, most of it is speculation, but people are trying to do things with these networks. Most of these ICOs are 3 months, 6 months old. The network, so people have created the code. So if you think about a blockchain, there's 3 pieces in my view. At the bottom, the base is the protocol. This is the code, the rule, the language, the system that actually defines the network. And the second layer is the implementation of that code into an actual physical computational network, right? All of this stuff that's theoretical in code has to exist in real physical space. And no one's really thinking about the fact that when you create a protocol, it has to get implemented as a network, and people have to be willing to run nodes to expend computational energy and to expend electricity and whatever else, or tokens in the case of staking, to run that network. And then the third layer, it's the layer that we all use, it's the application layer, where I go on my iPhone and I open my app, or I go on my computer and I log into whatever application. That's really where the user interacts. But there are all of these layers that need to be created. So the only layer that's really been created to date is the protocol. So you read these white papers, and people have really sophisticated ideas of how these networks might work, but the problem is that distributed systems are very hard to build. And we know this for a fact, right? We've tried to build the internet. Look at the internet. It took 20 years to implement the internet at scale. And every company that worked at the networking layer, all of the ISPs that provide the backbone for the internet, went bankrupt twice. So the question is in these networks, who pays for the computational capacity? And I think this is the interesting part about all of these tokens. If we have hundreds or thousands of blockchains, we have one internet for a reason. Because it's really fucking expensive to build physical infrastructure. This is what I learned from oil and gas. Building an oil field costs $20 to $40 billion. Billion with a B. And it takes 15 to 20 years. Building a blockchain, you don't just do that overnight with a team of 5 20-year-olds who don't have any experience in network infrastructure. It takes 15 to 20 years. And so I think from a timescale perspective, I don't sell any of the cryptocurrencies I buy usually. I've sold Ethereum and a handful of others, but if I'm buying a token, I'm buying it because I fundamentally believe that in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, that network will be valuable. And I think that's what people forget, is they look at this as in 3 months, in 6 months, I'll make money. Then you shouldn't be investing in cryptocurrencies. Go invest in penny stocks. Go invest in equities. Go invest in oil. But don't buy cryptocurrencies. It's the wrong motivation.
True. What's your new company doing? And once you tell us that, which are your favorite
my favorite. Okay, so I will say, before I talk about tokens, I disclose every token I've invested in. I feel it's very important to be transparent. So if you're curious about what I own, you can go to medium.com. Do people here use Medium? It's a blogging site? Great. So I'm on Medium. If you search my name, Meltem Demirors, you'll find me. I have a post called Transparency and Ethics, and there I list all of the tokens I own. I update it every 2 weeks, so it should be up to date. This is not investment advice, so nothing I say should be taken as investment advice. My new firm, Athena Capital, my motivation was, how do we create a new narrative around cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology? It's not about technology. If I talk to, I was saying this to Guy, if I go and talk to someone who, on the street, and I say, oh, do you know about Bitcoin? You know what they say? Oh, I don't get it, it's too complicated. Here's the thing, I have an iPhone, right? Who here has a cell phone of some sort, a smartphone? Who here? Don't be shy. We all have smartphones. You should all be raising your hand. We all have smartphones. Now, do I know how my smartphone works? Do you know how your smartphone works? No. Do you know? I have no idea, nor do I want to know, nor do I care. What I know is what I can do with my smartphone. Same thing with cryptocurrencies. I don't care how they work if I'm an average person. I don't have time to spend hundreds of hours researching cryptocurrencies. So we as an industry are doing a terrible job communicating to people why they should have one of these. So, Athena Capital, I'm investing in companies. I have 12 portfolio companies so far, which I'm very excited about. Equity investing. I've also invested in a handful of tokens, but I'm really focused on equity investing primarily. The second thing I'm doing is I'm advising companies, large corporations who are trying to understand how to use cryptocurrencies, which is very important to me, because that's an important catalyst to start driving broader adoption. And then the last thing I'm doing is I'm launching next week in New York a new business focused on helping crypto projects manage their money for the long term. So those millions of dollars they raise to build these projects, it has to last 15 to 20 years. So I'm going to help them do that. And then also helping them invest back into their ecosystems, into creating demand in ways that are measurable. Because I'm a scientist, a data scientist, I love math. Show me the numbers. We need data. Show me the actual data, the numbers of who's using this shit. And the answer, if you look at it, is nobody. So how do we get to a point where people can prove that there's actual utility in what's being built? It's a lot of stuff, so I need a lot of help. We all have to do this together.
And the favorites.
Favorites, ooh. Okay, there are a few things I'm really excited about. I'm very excited about Tezos. I know a lot of people are skeptical of Tezos after some of the challenges they went through. Tezos is a delegated proof-of-stake protocol that's focused on implementing decentralized governance, so enabling people to vote on-chain about changes to the protocol, which I think is interesting, especially after Bitcoin's hard fork, the Ethereum hard fork. We've seen how important governance is for blockchain protocols. The other thing that's cool about it is they're using a really sophisticated programming language called OCaml. And what's cool about it is it enables formal verification of smart contracts, meaning you can audit the code for mathematical inconsistencies before it gets implemented. So if we look at the DAO hack, one of the reasons the DAO hack happened is because there was an error or a flaw in the smart contract. It couldn't be verified. And so to me, having smart contracts or smart objects, programmable money, with this verification function is very important. So I'm excited about Tezos. They've had a lot of challenges, but I think that team has amazing data scientists. I'm excited about any tokens that are enabling privacy. So Zcash and Monero are my two favorites there. There's a new token I'm looking at now called Haven, Haven, that has a similar concept. And the idea really is what if every person in the world could have a Swiss bank account in their pocket? And when I say Swiss bank account, I mean secure money that is outside of the realm of government control. And I think that's very important because financial freedom is a fundamental human right that a lot of people in the world don't have, that I think is very important to enabling economic development, growth, but very important, gender equality as well. You think about all of the economies where women don't have bank accounts, where they can't have their own money. It's very important to have this type of technology, but to also make it usable. And then the last token I'm really excited about is something called Polyswarm. And Polyswarm is what they're attempting to do is create a network where people, quote unquote, mine by competing to detect malware and cyber threats. So it's basically trying to decentralize and create an incentive marketplace for detecting hacks. And I do believe that one of the challenges of cryptocurrencies is more and more crime will shift from violent crime, physical crime, to digital crime. And so I think one of the important things we need to do is create solutions to detect digital crime, to detect threat vectors. If we think about some of the recent hacks that have happened in the cyber community, a lot of them have impacted a lot of computers around the world, programs we all use on a daily basis. So creating incentive structures that keep our digital property, our digital assets, our digital data secure, it's a very important part of this.
Amazing. It's super interesting and it's super fun to listen to you, Meltem, because you're super clear. You've thought about this a lot. And thinking it's something that needs to be done in the realm of cryptocurrencies and the realm of tokens and the realm of blockchain in general. There needs to be a lot of thinking. And Meltem talked about the long term, about understanding this not as a short-term investment, not as a speculation, but as a long-term investment. And actually, the T-shirts that we did.
This is my favorite word. It's HODL.
HODL. HODL comes from hold, which means don't sell. If you got into cryptocurrencies, if you got into Bitcoin, it's not because the price is going to go up 10x in a month or in a year. It's because you think that this world can be a better world, can be a fairer world.
Wait, not necessarily better. It will be a different world. I think it's easy for people to say, oh, Bitcoin's going to fix all of these problems. It won't. We still have massive inequality. There are tremendous problems with the distributions of these assets, but we can have choice, freedom.
It's true. But
not better.
But
maybe.
if you think that this becomes a protocol, an underlying technology over which any entrepreneur anywhere in the world can build its own tool, its own app, its own service, without the need of paying royalties or paying...
or paying a bank.
Yeah, or paying a bank. Then chances are that you will have a better world. But it's true. It might not.
But this is what I always say, like technology is just a tool, right? Blockchain technology, it's a tool. The way that people use tools can be good or bad. If I have a car, I can use my car to drive from one place to another, and that could be good, right? I can use my car to drive to work, etc. Great. But I can also use my car to run into people. And that's bad. So technology itself is not good or bad. It's the way that we use it that can be good or bad. Now, cryptocurrencies don't make the world a better place, not necessarily. To me, it's about giving people the choice. But it's up to me and you and every single person in this room and every single person around the world who's talking about, educating about, thinking about digital currencies and blockchains to actually think about it in a way that helps other people and not just themselves. But no one person, no one project, no amount of computer code can make things good. That's up to people. And so the question is, can we collectively as a society overcome our own greed and our own egos to actually work together to do something that helps everyone? That's the experiment.
Yeah, that's the experiment. Again, super true. Meltem, it's amazing. So Meltem, it all depends. I mean, it's true. Cryptocurrencies, no technology is going to make the world better. I mean, it's people that is going to make it better. It could actually make it worse if people want to use the technology in the wrong way. So it depends on us. And supposing that everyone here have good intentions, if we could convince one person from here that is not involved in technology and is not building something, is not starting a startup in the ecosystem, understanding that startups and entrepreneurs are the ones that are going to actually make this useful.
Actually, wait, hold on. I want to disagree with that. You don't have to build a company to do something important. The most important thing we can be doing is educating people. It's communicating about this technology in a better way. And so startups and technology are important. Products are important. So this is my trifecta. A company is made out of three things. Technology, and it always starts with technology, right? There's some sort of technical innovation, some great engineering work, so there's technology, and that's very critical. That's the foundation. Then you have product, which is all about design, incentives, behavior, understanding human psychology and how people think. So that's product. And then the third piece, which is the most important piece, which everyone ignores, is how you communicate, is how you educate, it's how you market the product. And to me, that's what we need to do better in the cryptocurrency space. So not everyone needs to start a company. If you are into crypto, talk to people you know about it. Ask them questions. What's unclear? What's confusing? Let's get better at the education, the advocacy, and marketing, because that's what changes people's minds, right? It's a battle for hearts and minds. It's never about the best technology. It's always, always, always a battle for hearts and minds.
Very inspiring. Meltem, I would love to keep on going, keep on talking. I think it's very clear which it's important thing. It's about the fundamentals. It's about understanding how the world can be and how we can actually help to get there if we do the right stuff. Thank you very, very much for being here. I don't know if you want to say some last words.
I'm on Twitter. I'm online. Drop me a note. I would love to meet some of you. Come talk to me. Thank you for having me.
You should definitely follow. That's a good thing. The hard thing about understanding this is that there's a lot of information. So there are certain people on the internet, on Twitter, that you need to follow because they're going to give you, they did all the research. I mean, they did the hard job. So they're going to give you all the pieces or some of the pieces that you can actually read and just make it easier and faster. Meltem is one of them. What other 2 or 3 people would you recommend to follow?
I think it depends. So I am an English speaker, so my resources will be English, but there need to be resources in different languages. What I like is I think, so obviously I like what I write, but that's very biased. I really like what Vinny Lingham writes. Eric Voorhees, who's the founder of Shapeshift, I think he has some great writing that's really more about the history of monetary policy and why economic freedom matters. I think if you're on the investing side, there are a lot of different people on the investing side, but I find what they say to be mostly garbage, so I don't really listen to that. If you really want to understand blockchain technology, I think Consensus does a great job actually on their blog with some of the things they're tweeting, some of their events. CoinDesk does a great job covering all of the different events happening in the world. Those are probably my go-tos. And then I'm always finding new people. What's great is there's so many really smart people who cover technology, incentive structure, ethics, behavior, token design that are all really interesting. So I think it really depends on what you're interested in. Medium's a great resource, Twitter is a great resource, and then ask your friends.
Awesome. Please, let's give Meltem a round of applause. It was a pleasure. And